Live from the Emerald City in Seattle, Washington, the UFO, Bigfoot, and paranormal hotspot of the Pacific Northwest. Directly to you from around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, occupying the captain's chair tonight for SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including all of our listeners on the digital side at Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always find our archived shows for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us all a favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight is going to be a great show tonight, folks. I really appreciate you joining me. We are going to have a fun time here on, this is already November, can you believe it or not? 29th, almost December of 2020, and we are about ready to start the actual show here. As soon as I can get my fireplace up and running again here on my video. Let's see, where'd that go? Anyway, tonight's guest is going to be a special kind of repeat recall guest. It's Stephen Myers, and he is the expert on the Giza pyramid that we are going to talk to about all the things that's going on with the update to what's happening in his world and the Giza power plant and all of that and how it was constructed. And of course, at the top of the show, we always do Peter Davenport with the National UFO Reporting Center and the UFO and UAP sighting reports from around the globe. Let's bring in everyone and see if they're there. First of all, Stephen, are you there?
I sure am. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, wonderful. It's great to have you back on the show. I appreciate you willing to do this here so close to the holiday weekend that we just accomplished. And I hope you had a good one. We're going to hear a little bit from Peter at the beginning of the show. Peter, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me, Michael?
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I can hear you just great. Just tuning in the audio here for you real well. Okay. Yeah, hey, Stephen. Peter says hello.
Well, hello, Peter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, Peter, how was your holiday, by the way? Were you able to successfully get any kind of respite in for yourself?
Well, I violated the governor's mandate and an absolutely delightful Thanksgiving dinner and celebration with neighbors who are just 2 houses away from me.
Oh, isn't that nice? Okay.
So the two daughters live with their mother, 2 grown daughters. They're all 3 wonderful cooks, and each of them took one of the dishes, and they did a wonderful job. Between dinner and dessert, we ate way too much, but it was a wonderful time. How about you, Michael?
Oh, well, you know, you guys, both Stephen and Peter, just so you know, what I did, you know me, I'm always experimenting with stuff, literally. I decided to do an entire Truman Show on Thanksgiving where I live streamed on Facebook Live through a GoPro that I had strapped to my chest, and literally walked everyone through the whole day with me, starting with making cinnamon rolls in the morning, watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the National Dog Show, of course. We had to all watch that at our house. It's just myself and my mother, my 90-year-old mother. You know, I take care of her. Then we put the actually I went and ordered the full deal meal at QFC picked it up at about noon, and then started heating things up in the oven in early afternoon, and we had an early dinner that I also live streamed, and I had literally thousands of views around the world, people just popping in and enjoying the scenery and the dinner and the conversation. So it was a lot of fun. That is on Michael W. Hall on Facebook. If you ever want to go there, it's still there. You can enjoy it if you want.
Good. That sounds like a wonderful day.
And of course,
not all of your listeners know about your ability to cook, particularly chicken soup, and for none other than Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah, there's a story for you. Just so what Peter's alluding to, Stephen, is I was literally the host in the green room backstage at Universal Studios Amphitheater in the 70s and the 80s. And at one point, I was tasked with doing the special writer requests, for all the stars that would come through. I was just the green room guy that would take care of everything during the show, the beginning, during the show and after. And Frank Sinatra had a special recipe for chicken soup he had to have every night before he went on stage. That and 2 fingers of Jack Daniels. That was how he started his entire show. Anyway, yeah, those were the good old days.
So you cook chicken and turkey.
Yeah, why not? My son Cameron loves to cook as well. He's kind of taken over that and actually has had some jobs as being a cook already. So it kind of runs in the family. But I'm taken away from your part of the show here, Peter. We might have to pull you over a few minutes after the break. It's almost 15 minutes into it, but let's let you take over and tell us what's been happening.
I'm really looking forward to sharing this first sighting report. It comes from 1954. That's when the witness estimates he saw it. But the reason I'm delighted to share this one is you will quickly see that it's very similar to my first sighting as a youth in 1954 that you've heard me describe on several occasions, Michael. This gentleman, I believe he's a professor, writes that he estimates the date was July or August of either 1953 or 54. He was working at a drive-in theater. And the reason this report caught my eye and compelled me to share it with our audience is it's very similar to mine. I was at a drive-in theater, and I believe it was July of 1954, watching a movie when my whole family was witness to one of the most dramatic UFO sightings I've ever heard of. But this gentleman was in Indianapolis. He must be a little bit older than I am, because in 1954 he was already working for the drive-in theater, outdoors doing something. He doesn't specify what it was he was doing. But he looked to the south from the theater behind the screen, and he saw what at first he took to be a cloud approaching the theater from the south. And as it got closer, he realized that there was something embedded in the center of the cloud. It was radiating red light. And the whole episode, the whole sighting lasted, he estimates, for 7 seconds. The object went from the southern sky to gone out of sight to the northwest in not more than 7 seconds, he estimates. But he goes on to describe how it covered approximately 90 degrees of azimuth in less than 7 or 8 seconds. So it must have been moving very fast, which rules out the possibility, I feel, that it could have been any sort of fast-moving cloud. That's just too fast for a cloud to be moving across the night sky.
Yeah.
Given I think I've shared my sighting report when I was a boy, and it's so similar to this one, it makes me wonder whether they might have been the same object that was visible in Indianapolis and St. Louis, Missouri.
And this is about the same time frame, right?
Exactly, same year. He says either 53 or 54. I estimate my sighting to have been in 54, probably May, June, or July. Most likely July or August, because it was very hot, as I remember. But I just thought I had a hankering to share that with our audience.
And that is a historical report that just arrived recently to you. Is that what happened?
It arrived, I believe, today, Michael.
Interesting. Okay, good, because you've always asked, not necessarily that if people have historical reports, that you need to hear them as well. So that's good.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And if there's anybody listening who was old enough to remember 1954 and might have seen something unusual at a drive-in theater, I'd encourage them to submit their report using our online report form. But
that there is a theory there, Peter. Basically, that if, for instance, back in the 1950s, there is a whole bunch of human beings sitting in their cars staring in one direction, you wonder if that was an opportunity for those craft to be seen. Who knows?
Excellent point, Michael. It would be, I agree with you, an excellent way to introduce the Earth's population of human beings to the existence of flying saucers.
And you would think that back in the 50s that to get a whole bunch of people to stare at the night sky at the same time in the same direction would have been very interesting and hard to do, except for drive-in movie theaters, just like it happened to you as a child sitting there in that drive-in theater when you saw that amazing sighting yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
That explains why I'm on a Sunday night program with Michael W. Hall about UFOs, was that sighting. In my case, it lasted for maybe 5 or 10 seconds, but
yeah,
that was it. But I have several other reports that I'd like to share with our audience. The next one comes from the 10th of November, 11/10/2020. This was 7:43 p.m. in Williams, Arizona. A young woman writes that she was with a group of 5 people star watching for satellites and meteors, when they noticed directly above them a satellite-like object, distinctly white, very bright, and it was moving at about the same pace that the International Space Station is seen moving across the night sky. But then suddenly, the object began to slow down significantly and started to zigzag and fly in jerky motion. So if her report is accurate, it's clearly not a satellite. And the other interesting thing is that as it coursed to the north, it suddenly stopped, according to her report. It reversed its course, so now it's going to the south, and continued flying in a very erratic fashion. But it stopped for, she estimates, 10 seconds before it reversed its course. And no satellite can do that, obviously. So,
definitely.
We'll never know, but it covered, she estimates it covered about 20 degrees of arc before it disappeared from their sight.
So in other words, this is one of those disappearing of sight where it literally seems to be going away from them then, rather than disappearing over a horizon, sounds like.
In my opinion, the most interesting part of this report is that the object appears to have reversed its course across the night sky.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it did so after stopping for upwards of 10 seconds or more.
You know, Peter, more and more I'm seeing those videos on the internet of exactly that. People watching these things that could look like satellites, but all of a sudden they take U-turns or 90-degree turns. People are seeing those all over.
And one type of report that I've received this week, for which I have no explanation, is people sleep in their bedrooms and being awakened by a very bright light outside their window. In fact, I took one of those over the hotline tonight, Sunday night, and the witnesses were adamant that it was not a landing light on an aircraft. It was something extremely bright and just outside their bedroom window.
Oh my goodness! And when they go look out their window, they can't find anything that would correspond to a light like that, right?
Well, in some instances, they can see the light that then moves off at either a rapid speed or a slow speed. They're both types of accelerations that are reported by these people. But I mention it because if any of our listeners have had similar experiences, we would really welcome a detailed report of what they saw and what they experienced.
Oh my! Now that is disconcerting. You're sitting there laying in bed, a light shines somehow into your room, and at least maybe bright enough to wake you up even, and then you see it fly off. That's strange.
And they're adamant that the light was streaming through closed blinds or curtains. I have no explanation for that.
Wow. Okay.
A report I've seen over the last year or two, for which I have no explanation. A third report I'd like to share before we run out of time here, Michael, comes from Huntsville, Texas. This is from November 21st, so it was Saturday of last week, 8 days ago. At 0940 hours in the morning, a gentleman writes that he was, I guess it's a she. I just realized the name is probably a she. She was driving with her fiancé, and she saw a disc-shaped object with a black ventral surface and a mirror-like dorsal surface, mirror on the top.
Yeah.
She estimated about 300 feet in the air and about that far from her, so it was very close to them. And what gave her pause, and the reason she decided to report this incident, was as she was watching it, and she looked at it, she estimates for only 10 seconds, it suddenly simply vanished from her sight. It just disappeared. Whether it dematerialized or it went into another dimension or suddenly accelerated and streaked off faster than her eyes could follow it, I don't know. But it just instantly disappeared from her sight.
Oh my! Now, Peter, just to confirm, you're saying 300 feet or 300 yards? Did she determine that?
He writes 300 feet.
Well, as we all know, that is basically the length of a football field,
Yep.
which is not that far away. You could actually definitely determine if there was a craft hovering away from you the length of a football field. Holy mackerel.
And what tends to support her estimate of distance, it's very difficult to estimate the distance from an object the size of which you do not know ahead of time. But she writes that it was backdropped at one point during her sighting. It was backdropped by clouds. Now, just a hint to any of our listeners, if you see an object in front of clouds, the first thing you should do is call the National Weather Service. Whether U.S. or Canadian, they both have weather services, and get the altitude of the cloud, because that will help you, allow you to calculate an estimate of the height, the altitude of the object. It tells you how far the maximum distance it can be from you.
Right, and definitely would give you at least some mathematical input to do some other calculations as well.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Size and speed.
Well, Peter, before we get to the bottom of the hour here, I thought I would just ask Stephen if he has what are your impressions of any of these reports here at this point?
Well, it's sure fascinating eyewitness accounts of phenomenon, and it's all part of a body of research that has been added to for the last 50 years. So, it's interesting, to consider every possibility out there.
Yeah. I tend to agree, Stephen. If these reports are true, and if they're accurate, it suggests to me, and to many other people, of course, that we are being visited routinely by these objects that we have called since 1947 flying saucers. And that, I'm trained as a scientist. If there's even a shard of a possibility that is a true statement, that we're being visited, it is, in my opinion, the most consequential scientific discovery in the history of man to this point in his existence.
Speaking of which, Peter, and Stephen as well, just so you know, there are major rumors in the ufology community that there is going to be a huge announcement, or at least a follow-up kind of announcement or confirmation made on December 2nd, I believe, or December 4th or 5th or something like that. Have you heard that as well, Peter?
Well, you shared the information with me about, are you talking about Grant Cameron's?
Oh, no, the grant is scheduled. Well, we need to tell people about that, because you are going to be on Grant Cameron's panel coming up on December 6th, is it?
6th, I believe, yeah.
Okay. And in which, by the way, Stephen, Grant Cameron, David Marler, Peter Davenport, Stephen Greenstreet, by the way, Peter, I understand he's confirmed, will be talking about triangle UFOs. It's going to be quite a panel discussion on December 6th on Grant Cameron's channel with Nicole Sakich, his assistant. So, yeah, I just wanted to promote that. I'm glad you reminded me there, Peter.
Good.
Let's give out the contact numbers, the hotline number, and then we'll let you relax for the rest of the night, Peter. Thank you so much again.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to appear on Spaced Out Radio. It's always a pleasure to work with you, Michael.
Yes.
And with your guests. The UFO hotline is area code 206-722-3000. That number again is 206-722-3000 for sightings within the last week. And if anybody has past sightings from years or decades in the past, I encourage them to submit them, but using our online report form at ufocenter.com. And our mailing address, if anybody needs it, is National UFO Reporting Center, P.O. Box 700, Davenport, Washington. Like my name, Davenport, Washington, and the zip code is 99122. So we'd love to hear from any of our listeners tonight if they've had UFO sightings.
Yes, and Peter has been doing this for, almost 3 decades now. And if you're of mind to send him a monetary donation to keep his hotline free and all that kind of stuff, feel free to send in a few dollars as well. I always encourage people to do that. So, Peter, you have yourself a wonderful week, and we'll see what happens next week, because you'll have a lot of interesting things to tell us about the triangle panel that you will be on Grant Cameron's show, and we'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
I look forward to it. And as always, thanks for the wonderful airtime, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And Stephen, you just hold on to your hat there. We're going to take our first commercial break. We'll be back in 6 minutes, folks, on Spaced Out Sunday.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans. It's John Resnick, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Sunday, everyone. This is your host, Michael W. Hall, and I am here with Stephen Myers. Stephen has compiled much of his research in 2 books and 2 documentaries that he has produced himself. These books and documentaries provide a comprehensive explanation of how the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau was assembled using waterlocks and barges, as well as how the Great Pyramid operated as an efficient water pumping system. Stephen has been interviewed on over 130 talk shows and podcasts about his books and research on the Great Pyramid water pump. These 2 books are available from Amazon.com in both softcover and Kindle ebook format. So welcome back to the show, Stephen.
Thank you for having me on the show again. What a thrill. It's been a long time.
Well, yeah. And, it was fun for you to be kind of my co-host for Peter Davenport as well again at the top of the show. I always like to talk with Peter every week just to find out the new things that are happening. And, of course, as we heard tonight, some of the old historic sightings are coming to him now just out of the blue. People are finally deciding to step up to the plate and report them.
It is exciting.
Have you ever had a unique sighting of something paranormal like that yourself? UFO, Bigfoot, ghost, anything like that?
Unfortunately, I haven't. I live in southwestern Oregon, which is actually Bigfoot country, and I haven't seen a Bigfoot or a Bigfoot sign, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm kind of more of a techno nerd than an outdoorsman, so that is probably why. But I have a daughter, an adult daughter, who lives across town, and she's a big Bigfoot enthusiast, but she hasn't had a sighting or anything.
Oh, good for her. Well, down there in your neck of the woods, oh my word, you're like you said, Bigfoot headquarters down there, as well as up here on the Olympic Peninsula.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All sorts of sighting reports around that general area, even on the coast where you're located. Seems to be the native tribes down there had some unique sightings as well.
That's true. I'm on the southern Oregon coast, right near 101, if you will, and northern California, the coastal area, and here is Bigfoot country. But I'd sure like to see one. That would be interesting.
Oh, it would be. Can you imagine what that would do to your paradigm shift of your thinking when you finally see something yourself? That would be. It's almost like your research that you're, so into right now, the scientific research where you come across things that other people haven't thought of before. It changes the paradigm shift of you as a scientist, Stephen, I would imagine.
Well, certainly all areas of science is in a revolution of ideas, both UFOs, the idea of Bigfoot, all the sciences, math, physics, biology are, in a revolution of ideas. And different ideas are good, and it's okay. So we do. I represent a direction of thought about the Great Pyramid's construction procedure and purpose that is a paradigm shift from conventional thought.
When you were young, maybe even a child, was there anything in your background that portended you to be predisposed to get into the Giza pyramid?
In a way, I was raised by a man, my father, who grew up in the Depression, and he if you couldn't fix it or make it, you didn't have it, and he was one of the most technically inclined people I've ever met. He could weld, he was a carpenter, he could fix TVs, do car maintenance, rough his house, those kind of guys. He existed in the real world. He didn't just have book smarts, and he was a wheeler and dealer, a buyer and seller, and entrepreneur in a number of ways. So that gave me a predisposition to think of things in a very technical manner, not what something represents or what something means, but how it works and why. And I went on to be a ham radio operator and have the FCC commercial radio telephone license and other degrees and certificates. So I certainly have a technological bent towards pretty much everything, and including the ancient skyscraper known as the Great Pyramid.
And were you the only child? Did you have siblings as well?
I had two older sisters that were quite a bit older than I am, both born before Pearl Harbor, if you will. And I don't remember them even being in the household. They're more like my aunts, if you will. But I have two older brothers, so and we built forts and did a whole bunch of technical stuff, and so yeah, two older brothers. There was five of us.
Wow. I'll bet you were the kind of kid that would love those cutaway diagrams of things, so you could see what was going on the inside, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, as a kid, and then built the plastic model of the engine, with the crank and the pistons and that type of thing. And also, like when you go into some aerospace museums, where the Spruce Goose is up in McMinnville, they have a number of teaching aids, real like airplane engines that are cut away that they used in colleges, and you could press a button and they turn, and oh yeah, that's a big thrill. And trains, I'm interested in trains, and antique gasoline engines and all of that type of technology.
Oh, my word. Yeah, and then you get your advanced education. Where did you go to school?
Well, I went to school at a number of places here locally, in Oregon, in other words. I got my degree and went on to, as soon as you get your degree, right after that, that's when your education starts. So,
right.
The university, the world is a university, and I'm still going to school. So but I don't claim a degree validates anything I say or anything anyone else says. And so I'm just a person presenting some information that people can consider, its relative merits.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, in McMinnville, there's a really nice small college in McMinnville at Linfield College, as you well know.
Mm-hmm. Linfield, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I almost went to Linfield myself. Instead, I went to Pullman, Washington State University, but I was being recruited at the time by the wrestling coach down there at Linfield, because they had probably the small college equivalent of the NCAA championships down there on their wrestling program. And I really liked that small little college town of McMinnville. Of course, that's where the annual McMinnville UFO Festival happens every May, typically. That kind of kicks off the big conference season for ufology. Really nice town down there.
It is. It's a beautiful area. McMinnville, Portland, all of that is, for the most part, a wonderful place. And I'm quite a bit south of that, in a very rural area.
Yeah.
So the whole county doesn't have a Home Depot or anything like that. So it's...
the whole county does not have a Home Depot. Are you kidding me?
No, the whole county. So we have to go to the next county over, where it's about a 45-minute drive to go to a Home Depot, for example. So, or a Lowe's. We don't have that or anything like that. Or
yeah.
So, but it's one of the best things about where I live is the things it doesn't have. So it's a nice place to raise kids, and it's a nice place to retire. So I'm kind of a happy camper.
Well, and thank God we've got perfect connectivity here on the internet and on Zoom. So that's working out good. So good for you.
Yes.
Well, let's get started into the whole Giza pyramid. Give us a little bit of, first of all, let's plug your books and your research and how people can actually get to the site to get more information about you and your books as well. Let's do that first.
Well, my website is thepump.org, THEPUMP.org. And that's kind of the central location to contact me through email and information about my books. My first book is Lost Technologies of the Great Pyramid, if you can see that without a reflection. And softcover or Kindle ebook format. And talks about how the Great Pyramid was assembled. And my second book is Why They Went to Such an Effort, the Great Pyramid Prosperity Machine. And so those are my two books. And I have a couple of documentaries that are in DVD format. The first one is Building the Great Pyramid using waterlocks and barges. And it has a lot of computer-generated animations. And my second documentary is called The Great Pyramid Water Pump. But I don't have that to show that one right in front of me. I've loaned out to a guy. So anyway, we produced a lot of information and research that's available in those formats. So that's the big plug right at the beginning.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great. And what started you on the fascination with Egypt in the first place?
Well, I'm like everybody. Most everyone has at least a passing interest in these ancient structures, and most people, one time or another, think about them and are fascinated by them in certain ways. And I was that way, being technically inclined. No matter what the Great Pyramid's for, it's a technological wonder. It's a building that's 45 stories tall, and so it's amazing. So it's a wonderful thing. So I did like everyone else back when I started, went to the card catalog at the library. That's
for those,
like a whole bunch of little drawers.
Right. For those Zoomers out there, the young kids that have no idea what that experience was like. To walk in,
a whole different world.
To walk in, kind of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go to that part of the library and get a book. You know, those are things made generally with paper and books. You know,
Yep.
And so I'd read all those books about the pyramids and watch documentaries, and most of them were by Egyptologists who are self-proclaimed experts about that type of thing. And they talked about the big ramp, you know, and the big strong back muscles. And they talked about how precision stone cutting was accomplished using hand tools, you know, like a chisel and a mallet, you know. And then there's a big, like a casing stone that weighs 16 tons and cut to perfection using hand tools. So they talked about that in their books and everything. So, okay. All I need to do now is, because I'm a researcher, is see how they confirm their interpretations of the evidence with demonstrations. And I learned something about Egyptology, which is they don't have demonstrations. They've never made a casing stone or precision stone cutting using hammer and chisels. It's never been done. They say working people could do it all day long, but experts can't do it. So, and then like a 16-ton casing stone, they've never moved 1 inch. And then the 70-ton stones, Egyptology will never move 1 inch. But they say working people and peasants, they did it all day long, but Egyptology's been around for 200 years and have never engaged in the scientific method to prove what they say. So I read all the alternative books about aliens and it's a beacon or a death ray or all of that stuff, or it symbolically tells us they knew pi or whatever. And you know that didn't set well with me. It wasn't consistent with the direct physical evidence, you know, for a number of reasons that we can get into. But then I read a book, a privately published book. I think I have it here at the library. Right here. Pharaoh's Pump by Edward Kunkel.
Oh.
He was a guy who first came out in 1962, and there were several editions. You know, he just had them printed at the print shop, self-published, sold them, back in the day before the internet. He died, I think, in 82 or whatever, Edward Kunkel, and wrote that book, Pharaoh's Pump. And he didn't talk about the religion. He didn't talk about what type of hat the pharaoh wore. He didn't talk about mummies. You know, he didn't talk about what the Great Pyramid symbolically means or whatever. He talked about how it was assembled, how stones were moved from point A to point B. And there's not a lot of books that really discuss that at all. So it was fascinating to me, because how it was built, to me, is fascinating. Some people aren't interested in that, but how an aircraft carrier was built is interesting to me. You know, how a pencil is made. They have a TV show, how it's made, and I watched that show. So how the Great Pyramid was made, and that's what my first book was about. So I was so fascinated with his book that I ultimately started a nonprofit foundation in his honor, if you will, named after his book, the Pharaoh's Pump Foundation. That's what my website's about. So that's how I got started.
Oh my, I'll bet that was quite a revelation for you as a mechanical kind of guy to run across a pamphlet like that. I like the way that those things are self-published, those little pamphlets that are just gems. You know, how did you find it?
Well, I read a whole host of books, everything from 5/5/2000 to the book called The Great Pyramid, Man's Monument to Man, and just a whole host, even the Giza Power Plant by Christopher Dunn. And all those books mentioned this other book and Edward Kunkel. They all had references to him. So I had to interlibrary loan the book because our small library didn't have it. And it was phenomenal to me. I don't agree with everything he says, and his research, has certainly been advanced by our nonprofit foundation, but boy, he was in the right direction, I think, and talked a lot about how these heavy stones were moved in a production line manner, if you will, and systematically to build this very large structure. So we've advanced that research and put a lot of it available in my books and documentaries.
Now, did Edward Kunkel give an idea of how he came up with this idea himself, or was there certain secret knowledge given to him to get him on this path? How did he come up with the theory?
Well, again, he was born in the 1890s, and he happened to have a mechanical bent to him himself. And he just used a process of elimination. It wasn't done, with back muscles and a few other possibilities because it can't be demonstrated. It wasn't done by cows jumping over the moon. That can't be demonstrated, even though it's an idea. You can read about it. And so ultimately, he thought that they probably used barges, which all researchers agree they use barges because some of the quarries are across the river from the Great Pyramid, and also the largest stones that weigh 70 tons, which is the weight of a railroad locomotive or an Abrams tank. Those quarries are 400 miles away, and they were brought downstream on the Nile River. So everyone agrees with that. Well, Edward Kunkel thought that if you could supply water to the Giza Plateau, you could use water locks like those in the Erie Canal here in the United States or the Panama Canal and move stones systematically all the way up to the building site. And he described that in his book. And again, I did in my first book, that systematic process of moving stones all the way up to the building site and to their final location using the powerful force of buoyancy of water, which lifts battleships and barges.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is fascinating. Very good. Oh, well, listen, we are now at the top of the hour already for our next break, so this is a good spot for us to kind of kick back and relax for 6 more minutes, and then we're going to really get back and get into this. How about that?
Oh, thank you.
All right, so hang on, Stephen, you just relax, and we're going to be right back with more Spaced Out Sunday after this.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you. We can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot Hot Sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you'd know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer. Whoa, things are falling apart here in the studio. Thanks for joining me tonight. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And on the digital side, we are very proud to be on Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can always check our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, and catching up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. And we are here tonight with Stephen Myers, and we are talking about the Giza Pyramid and all sorts of research that he has done in that regard, and we're going to get into it now. So, Stephen, hopefully you had a good chance to relax during that long break here. We'll have another one at the bottom of the hour, just so you know. But thanks for joining me again.
You were wearing me out there, but I'm all rested up now.
Good. Well, we had a whole hour of the show go by already. I mean, this is just whizzing by. Very fascinating stuff. First of all, before we get into the mechanics of the pyramid, which I just am dying to do, because I'm one of these guys that I think have that genetic predisposition to trying to figure out gadgets myself. So I'm with you in that regard. And so I really want to get into that. But first of all, is there any opinion that you have on the actual date, the actual antiquity of these structures themselves? I know that there's a lot of controversy in that regard.
Yes. Traditional Egyptologists say the Great Pyramid was built about 4,500 years ago. So that's what they've come up with. They also said that the Sphinx was within a couple of generations of the Sphinx with the pyramids on the Giza Plateau. They're right there together and built by the same culture and that type of thing. But the breakthrough research of Dr. Robert Schoch, who's a geologist, and you're probably familiar with him, he is based on weather erosion, contends that the Sphinx is much older, possibly pre-last ice age or that type of thing, around maybe 12,500 years ago. And so that's kind of interesting. So if the one structure on the Giza Plateau is much older, then that sort of pulls back the age or the date of construction for other structures on the Giza Plateau. So it is under scholarly debate. Some say 100,000 years ago, and all of that. So there's a whole host of ages or dates. But the focus of my research is not when it was built, but how and why. And in fact, when it was built doesn't really tell you a whole bunch, because let's say the Great Pyramid was built 10,000 years ago. They started construction. We found out, let's just say, hypothetically, we found out this construction started 10,000 years ago from today. Okay, we know that. It's an absolute fact. Let's just say that, hypothetically. Well, the very next question is, well, how'd they do it? And the question after that is, well, they did all that. Why would they do such a thing? So I kind of cut to the chase, and I don't focus as much on when as how and why. But you would think that we know a lot about ancient Egypt, because of Egyptology. So you would think that they could at least show how it was done, or even how components were made. But they can't show the technology used to even make a single component like a casing stone that was on the outside. So possibly the Great Pyramid predated the age of the pharaohs, and that's more likely than anything Egyptologists say.
Yeah, I would agree, given the information that I'm hearing from people, that this thing was probably there during the pharaoh's reign, and they of course would adopt it and use it for their own purposes potentially. But I think it's about time now that we get into that subject that you are so good at here, the actual construction of this massive monolith, which I assume, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, this structure seems to be the biggest, most complicated structure on the planet. Am I too far off there?
I would say that you're way off. Peter Davenport lives in Davenport, Washington, which I've been to.
Yeah.
And it's not very far from the Grand Coulee Dam, which in Washington State.
That's true.
River.
You're right.
It's about 13 times bigger than the Great Pyramid in volume. So there's a number of mainly hydroelectric dams that are bigger in volume. And it's pretty complicated when you consider alternating current and the big shafts and all of that stuff. So,
well,
also the Grand Coulee Dam is the largest structure in North America. And if I don't know if you're aware of this, but it pumps water. It is a huge water pump from the Columbia River to the Columbia River Basin. So it is pumping water right now. And they went to all that effort, even though they had water in the Columbia River, which doesn't help anybody, doesn't help a farmer if you have water in the river. It pumps water up out of the river onto farmland. So
yeah, well, it's an interesting analogy that you make there with the big hydroelectric dams and the Great Pyramid. Let me ask you this: do you think the Great Pyramid was is that your expertise in how they built that, or do you think what you found in the construction of the Great Pyramid applies to any of the other pyramids?
I'm kind of an expert, and that means I know more and more about less and less. But the focus of my research is the Great Pyramid. There are other pyramids around the globe. Some, though, are made of just rubble, if you will, earthen mounds, and some rather different degrees of quality of workmanship, if I can put it that way. So, if you have smaller components, you probably have a different method for construction. Some of the earliest pyramids, based on Egyptology's chronology, like the Step Pyramid, has many sun-baked mud bricks, if you will, that are 80 pounds or so, and those are probably moved in a much different way than you would move, a 16-ton component. So, no, I don't think it's a universal method. There's no silver bullet for pyramids, a single purpose or a single construction method or even a single culture, I don't think. So it's much more complicated than that.
Yeah. In comparison, the Pyramid of the Sun and those kinds of things that Teotihuacan, how are those anywhere near the mass of the Great Pyramid, or are they much smaller?
Well, the Pyramid of the Moon or the Pyramid of the Sun, that area, they're really big. Could be even bigger. It depends on how you measure it than the Great Pyramid. But again, some of them aren't as tall. Some of them have steps that lead up. Some have a stone outer structure, but the interior is, like backfill or rubble. So there's other technical requirements for using different materials. Some have a platform on the top, and different interior structure. So there's more differences than there are similarities. The main similarity is the shape, if you will, the pyramid shape. And anytime you use just masonry or dirt and you want a tall structure, it has to be big on the outside, on the bottom, to get height for you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So that's probably one universal reason for the shape of pyramids. It doesn't mean that they all have a similar purpose by any means.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now let's if you in your lectures and your presentations, when you begin the process of explaining to people how the pyramid was built, how do you start out? What do you start with?
Oh, well, the first thing I tell people is that the original builders were geniuses, and they built this great big structure to meet their wants, needs, and desires, just like, we built the Grand Coulee Dam to suit our wants, needs, and desires, or the Empire State Building, or, a battleship, or a pencil, or a hammer. And usually, anything that you build or make has a return on investment. And if things go well, the return on investment is much higher than the cost of building the thing. The Titanic only made half of its maiden voyage. So in terms of ticket sales, if you will, it never paid for itself. Its return on investment was rather low for the cost. But something else, like the Grand Coulee Dam, because you're up in Washington, I'll mention it again. It operates for 2 weeks, and the money it generates from selling electricity pays for its entire cost for a year. So it has a huge return on investment in a lot of ways. Some environmental impact that is adverse, but as intended, it has a huge return on investment. So these geniuses built this great big structure, and the way they did it was they had stones on barges. That all researchers agree there were stones on barges, but they were able to supply a water source at the construction site. Many people think that water has a profound association with the Great Pyramid, including Christopher Dunn. He also contends water was available at the construction site and at the pyramid. So if they had water, they were able to fill a series of water locks from the Nile River all the way up to the building site. And the first stones they set in place were the casing stones for the first level. And those are bonded together, watertight, with a bonding agent, a very strong glue or whatever you want to call it, a bonding agent is what I call it. And so they were watertight. So they were able to fill that enclosure of casing stone. So in effect, there was a square wall, and they filled that up with water and kept it full. And so there was a square lake about 4.5 feet deep right up there on the Giza Plateau. So what they did then was brought systematically stones on barges, one after another, up these water locks from the Nile all the way up to the building site, and they were able to go right into this square pond and move the stones, the interior stones, where the next stones set in place, off of the barge and into the pond. And when the pond was filled up with stones, the first level of the Great Pyramid was assembled. It was built level by level. Casing stones first for that level, and then the interior stones. So again, then they put in the second layer of casing stones and added an additional water lock, so they could go from the Nile all the way up to the second higher pond, if you will. This whole process is explained in our video series on our website at thepump.org, with a lot of computer-generated animation. So the Great Pyramid was built, again, systematically, level by level, all the way up to the casing stone.
And let's start from the beginning, for instance. The water lock system that you've explains how they get the tons of rock to the building site. How do they get the tons and tons of raw material from the quarry site to the river?
They use very specialized barges that allowed them to move heavy stones on and off of barges. So imagine you have a stone that has been quarried and it's on two supports, if you will. Well, those supports have water around them, if you will, and they move a barge that is partially has water in it. So it's setting low in the quarry, at the water in the quarry, if you will. So they move that barge under the stone and then siphon the water out of the barge, which lifts the barge up, and ultimately the stone is on the barge. That's how they put a stone on a barge, effortlessly. No big back muscles required.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is that the quarry is how far away from the river?
Some are across the river. Some are 400 miles.
How did they get those large tons of raw material 400 miles to the river? That's what I'm interested in.
Okay, the quarries are near the river, 400 miles upstream, for the largest stones.
Okay, so that clarifies it. So you're not saying they're 400 miles from the river. They're 400
from the river, from the construction site.
How far?
How researchers think that they use barges? So we just think that the builders were geniuses and were able to use barges and move the stones completely to their final destination instead of dragging them up the mega ramp.
Right. But first of all, I'm trying to get this down for sure that the quarry sites were how far from the river at the farthest? Do you know?
That's under scholarly debate. The Great Pyramid was built in distant antiquity, and the exact location of the river is even up to scholarly debate. Different researchers think that it took a different course. So during construction, the Nile may have been closer to both the quarries that were 400 miles away and also the Great Pyramid itself. So
okay, well let's assume that the quarries were right next to the river, wherever they were. How did they get a 70-ton stone out of the quarry into the river? Tell us that first step.
Well, we think that they were able to supply water to the quarries, and again, they used barges that they had water in the barges, so they would sit low in the water. They would move these barges under a 70-ton payload, if you will, and then remove the water from the barges, siphon it out, if you will. So that raised the barges up under the 70-ton payload and lifted it with ease. In the Erie Canal, it was 4.5 feet deep, but it built in the 1830s, and the barges had a capacity of 70 tons. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, then there's some kind of evidence of these locks going into from the quarry sites to the river of some kind. I would imagine that they've uncovered that kind of a thing yet.
There's evidence. There's direct physical evidence of the Giza Plateau, and all researchers, historians, archaeologists, and Egyptologists, and myself interpret that evidence.
So that's
we all have the same evidence, but we all interpret it a little bit differently.
Yeah,
So,
but that's back at the Giza Plateau, right? That's the waterlock system there.
Well, that's all of Egypt. So what I'm saying is, there's no working water locks used in the quarries that move stones for the Great Pyramid. In fact, there's no physical evidence for a barge that was used in the Giza Plateau. There's no like leftover barges out in the mud that you can go see or anything like that.
Yeah,
no
that's
evidence for barges, but all researchers agree they were used.
And they would have to get the wood from somewhere, obviously, to make barges. That would have been quite a. Well, they got.
Oh yeah, the ancient civilization that built the Great Pyramid were able to get wood for barges. In fact, there were 2 sun ships that were entombed at the base of the Great Pyramid that had very large planks and that are made to be disassembled. And we think those sun ships were part of the construction process. So the cedars of Lebanon and some other sources for construction quality lumber was available. And the barges were reused, of course. So, and as well as the doors on pivots, the wooden doors on pivots for the water locks. So yes, wood is available for that civilization.
Wow, that's fascinating. So once they get, I think it's hard to do this, I'm sure, without graphics, from your end. But I would like to be able to see if we can explain to people just indeed how this waterlock system worked, on the plateau to get the stones up there to begin with. So literally tell us how the lock system works in general. How did their lock system work?
Well, water locks are just a short canal with doors on both ends that are connected to another, in effect, canal that's of a higher altitude, if you will. And water locks are powerful and controllable. And essentially, with the water supply at the construction site, water would move down these canals, if you will, these water locks systematically, and that allowed stones on barges to move up the canal. And essentially, a stone on a barge would move in the canal, in the water lock, and doors would close on both ends. They would add water, and it would raise both the barge and the stone up to the next level, and then it would go into the next water lock and go up. A series of water locks is called a flight, and they were used extensively in the Industrial Revolution in Europe and the United States. So it's certainly a proven technology used around the world. They used water locks 24 hours a day, and the Erie Canal that I was talking about, built in the 1830s, was able to move the weight of the Great Pyramid and higher than the Great Pyramid in a period of about 2 years. So they're very fast water locks, certainly much faster than Egyptology, because they have yet to move just a casing stone sized payload even 1 inch. So yeah, it's the real people in the real world in ancient times were geniuses and actually built this Great Pyramid.
Oh my, this is great stuff. Okay, well listen, we are at the bottom of the hour now, so we're going to take another break. You get to relax, kick back, and we will be right back with more of Spaced Out Sunday in 6 more minutes, so hang on to your hat.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docu-series featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and strange humanoids. Truth seekers Stephen Bassett, Jeff Meldrum, Jack Kasher, and Stanton Friedman, among others, all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get bumblefucked?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning bumble, tone it down a bit with Bumblicious, and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
And we are back with Stephen Myers, and we are getting the thick of things right now. We're actually getting the stones now across the river into the Nile from their sites that they were quarried, and now we've got them up the locks from the Nile to the Giza Plateau. You know what my first question was, Stephen? Indeed, when I've seen those old-fashioned, well, not old-fashioned, even the current cutaway versions of the pyramid, there seems to be quite a lot of stuff going on underground the pyramid as well, right? So tell us how they started with that process before they actually got to building the pyramid itself.
Yes. During the very initial stages of the construction process, they built the descending passage that goes down about 26 degrees all the way down to a chamber built in a solid bedrock, limestone bedrock. There's a subterranean chamber, and they also have another passage that leads up from about 100 feet below the surface of the building site, up at the base of the Great Pyramid, where it will be, is another passage that goes up through the grotto and up into the building site itself. And we think that acted like a water pump itself. So the original builders were able to supply water at the base of the Great Pyramid construction site. They used those cuttings and the oddly shaped chamber to act like a water pumping system that pumped water up and kept that pond I talked about, kept it full, and also supplied water to the water locks because they take a lot of water. And it was like an industrially scaled water pumping system that they used all through the construction. It was like a beating heart that supplied the lifeblood to the construction process. And my books describe how that operated in excruciating detail. So to say the least, they had water at the height that they needed to keep the construction process going. And you can all watch it for free on our video series at thepump.org.
Okay. And for those that are just listening tonight and trying to visualize this like I am in my head, what is the source of this water that comes maybe from, did it come from 100 feet below the pyramid, or how did they get the water to the Giza Plateau to begin with to fill up the locks on the way down the hill?
There's scholarly debate. There's not just myself, but a number of people that contend water was available at the Giza Plateau. There's several possibilities. Some do say that it came from the pit in the subterranean chamber. There's a hole in the floor that goes down. And then others think that there is a feature called the Charm, which is right outside of the Great Pyramid proper. It's cemented over now, concreted over, because tourists aren't interested in it. So it was like another kind of a deep hole. You can look that up, the Charm, if you will, word search it. Then other people think that it was brought possibly from a canal, and the source of the water was the Nile, but upstream And some people think that there may have even been pumping stations along that route, if you will, to the Giza Plateau. Similar to a lot of the canals down in California, the early ones were all gravity fed for Southern California. But some of the other ones have pumping stations, if you will. The Edmonton pumping station, just north of the Los Angeles basin, is a very big water pump, in effect, to pump water over the hills to get into Los Angeles proper. So there's scholarly debate as to where the water came from, but there's a lot of evidence that indicates water was available at the Giza Plateau.
Okay, and obviously you would think that it would be available from the Nile somehow, so obviously that would be a good source. So you're not saying that they dug down until they found a spring of water that would supply that water at this point, right? Or could it be?
There's probably other people, but no, I don't think so. Some people have said, well, it was a cold water spring that isn't there now. So, where that connected to the passages under the Great Pyramid is not clear, but I don't contend that. I think that they had some sort of industrially scaled water source made available to the plateau, the Giza Plateau. Herodotus in the 5th century described the Great Pyramid as being like an island surrounded by water. So it depends on which version of the book you read, which translation. But around the Great Pyramid up until the 18th century, there was a wall around the Great Pyramid, and we think that that was used to impound water. And maybe that was still operational in the 5th century BC. So that's one idea about water being on the Giza Plateau. Sir Flanders Petrie described Nile earth inside the passages, which is sediment, if you will. So that's kind of interesting. The casing stones being cemented together watertight certainly lends credence to the idea of water being involved. They don't have the watertight casing stones to keep all the Egyptian rain out. So we think that water was impounded inside the Great Pyramid during the construction process.
Okay, so what you're saying is basically they placed the casing stones on the outside first, and then filled in the interior of the pyramid as they went up, it sounds like, right?
That's correct, level by level. So when they got to the level of the Queen's Chamber, they set those stones in place, and then the next level would be the next higher stones of the walls of the Queen's Chamber. And then when they did the next level, they would put on the ceiling stones of the Queen's Chamber, and they did the Grand Gallery the same way, level by level. Very similar to the way we build skyscrapers. The structural elements are built level by level, from the bottom up.
Yeah.
But we use those massive spindly cranes to lift the very heavy components. But we think the ancient geniuses used the buoyancy of water to lift the heavy components.
And obviously, this is kind of like almost underwater construction, if that's the case, and they are trying to make sure that these things fit, and then some kind of with gravity, I would imagine, stay there. And some of them are at an angle, I would imagine, like the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber. They've got those roofs over them that are angled, somehow. How do they do the angling of those stones if they're doing it with barges and underwater?
Much of the construction of the rough-cut interior stones was done underwater, if you will. In these ponds are only about waist deep So they would put those rough cut stones just down into the water. But the precision stone cutting would be done just above the pond, if you will. So the barge would set those stones on top of one another just above the water line. So there'd be like the floor of the Queen's Chamber, that would be put in just above the water line, and then they would put the first level of the walls, and the precision stone cutting, those stones that are cemented together would be done right above the water line of the pond. And then when ultimately all of that work was done, they would raise the pond up and then continue on. So the precision stonework was done just above the pond line, the level of the pond, and then the rough cut stones were just set in just very quickly. So the casing stones for the next layer would be set on top of the casing stone that's already set in place. So like with specialized barges and that type of thing. So it's quite an involved process, and but quite fascinating and ingenious, to say the least.
Well, it definitely sounds like there was some amazing architect involved in this thing. Do we know anything about the architects? Is there anybody taking credit for being the designer?
Well, there's Imhotep, which is like the first physician and the famous guy in ancient times. But even Egyptologists say, if you press him, that he never saw the Great Pyramid or didn't design it as built. So who financed the construction project of the Great Pyramid and who designed the Great Pyramid, that information is lost to the sands of time. So we don't know what leader, signed off on such a project. We do on the Grand Coulee Dam over in central Washington, and that was Roosevelt. He, is a great public works project that is paying off, 70 years later. So. But we don't know about the Great Pyramid.
Well, as far as the construction that you're talking about and the techniques, are there other pyramids that seem to have followed this technique, or is this a one-off kind of construction, do you think?
Well, again, the focus of my research is the Great Pyramid, and other pyramids are built, in different manners. There's a pyramid in Las Vegas, great big pyramid, just a little smaller than the Great Pyramid, and it uses different materials, different construction process, different interior design, and probably for a different purpose. And there's a pyramid at the Louvre, if you will, but I know what you're getting at, ancient pyramids. No, again, they are all different designs, different cultures, probably different purposes than the Great Pyramid, and it stands out. But if there's a specific pyramid that somebody wants to know how it was built, they can certainly dedicate their lives and answer that question. The geniuses built, let's say, the Great Pyramid. It is the honor and privilege of modern-day researchers to understand what they did and why they would do that.
Is it your opinion, then, that the Great Pyramid was maybe the first one that was built there? The other ones that are smaller, adjacent to it or whatever, did they come later? Is there any information on that?
Yeah. We all have the same evidence, the same direct physical evidence. Nobody has like secret evidence or whatever, but we all have different interpretations. I do think the Great Pyramid predated probably all the other structures on the Giza Plateau, and so that's counter to what Egyptologists say. And I think some of the other pyramids are more like a cargo cult purpose. In the South Pacific, they had cargo cults, if you will. You could word search that, but isolated cultures that existed in the Pacific were encountered, American soldiers in World War II, and it ended up worshiping them as gods, and they had all this cargo and benefits and riches and canned spam and food and radios and all of that, and they built airplanes but made them out of palm branches to emulate their gods, and they built radios out of crates with little fake knobs to emulate their gods. And we think that some of the other lesser pyramids in the area might have been the result of some sort of cargo cult from an original civilization that built the Great Pyramid. So that's quite interesting. And of course, Egyptologists can say when the Great Pyramid was built, and they can say who built it, but they can't even make a single component of the Great Pyramid. So their explanation is quite suspect in my mind. And that's why Egyptology is in a kind of a crisis, because that science doesn't use the scientific method. They can make up stories about the Pharaoh's hat, and they can tell you, about makeup or hairstyles or the clothing or how a mummy was made. But when it comes to pyramids, they are dumbfounded and laid prostrate in trying to use any type of scientific method.
I love the way you describe that. You're right, laid prostrate. What is your opinion about Zahi Hawass, the antiquities guy out there in Egypt?
Yes, I haven't met him person to person, but he has his story to tell, and he has certainly his agenda, and he is the most famous Egyptian on earth right now, and he promoted tourism, which is important, and that type of thing. Certainly, he is not open to new ideas, and he is very dogmatic. On my YouTube channel, I have a video about Egyptology, whether or not it's a pseudoscience, and it being dogmatic and unyielding, and essentially it's a science that works in isolation, doesn't work with stonemasons or other people like that. So Zahi Hawass is kind of the figurehead of that type of an attitude of Egyptology. So I think that Zahi Hawass is being formerly the head of Egyptology in Egypt. Egyptology, I think, is the greatest hindrance to understanding ancient Egypt. So it's just part of the battle.
Well, you're right, and I would imagine that their agenda is, wait a minute here, we don't want to lose control of the idea that Egyptians built these structures, if indeed there were a prior age, before that time. They don't want to lose control of that and ownership of it. So that's probably what they're thinking at this point. They got to keep their cards close to their vest.
That's true. I mean, Egyptology has existed for about 200 years, and they have the same story, about the big ramp and about the pharaoh's hat and mummies and all of that, and the big back muscles, and it hasn't changed. One of the criteria of a pseudoscience is that it has stagnated, but all other sciences, math, physics, psychology, biology, all sciences except for two has advanced and is in a revolution of ideas. Those two sciences are phrenology, which is the study of the bumps on people's heads and how it relates to character traits. Yeah. That's phrenology. That science that was taught in universities not long ago is gone because it couldn't withstand the rigors of the scientific method. And the other science, of all sciences that are stagnated, is Egyptology. If you pick up a book written by any Egyptologist in the 21st century, it's just the same as one written 100 years ago. So they are almost like a priesthood of a mystery religion instead of engaging in scholarly research.
You know, you've mentioned a couple times about the Pharaoh's hat. I don't know what the issue is there. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what I mean by that. You ask an Egyptologist, how was the Great Pyramid built? And then they'll inhale like this. They'll say, well, the northern Egypt and southern Egypt joined together, and that's represented by, now we're trying to find out how the Great Pyramid was built, but this is what they'll tell you. And that is represented by the Pharaoh's hat, because it has both the southern part of Egypt and the northern part of Egypt, and that united the whole civilization. So they talk about the hat a lot, and then they say, yes, it was the people that built the Great Pyramid. They were willing to do it and proud to work for their pharaoh. And then they'll start telling you about mummies, and then they'll show you King Tut's burial mask made of gold. Okay? King Tut was buried in a hole in the ground a long ways away from the Great Pyramid. And to associate those things together is very disingenuous. So ultimately, other than saying there was a lot of workers with big back muscles, and they were very organized. They had excellent organization and proud to work for the pharaoh. But all Egyptologists are organized. Isn't that interesting? But organization doesn't move a heavy stone. So that's why I mentioned the pharaoh's hat.
Okay, well that makes sense now. I understand where you're coming from. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's a whole bunch of hooey that they come up with. Their yarn, and people don't believe it anymore. You know, I don't know anyone that's past the 8th grade that's actually looked at it, at what Egyptologists say, and believe what they say anymore. People don't believe it.
Well, what do Egyptologists say is the purpose of the Great Pyramid then? What are they still saying?
Well, they say, the Great Pyramid was built, but during construction there were several changes of plans because we presuppose that the Great Pyramid was a tomb for the pharaoh, and because the Great Pyramid's interior design doesn't look like a tomb because it has so many passages and chambers, that the people building it didn't know really what they were doing and changed plans in mid-construction. So, but it was a tomb, even though it didn't look like a tomb.
Yeah.
And there you go. And that settled that. And if you say anything against that, you're ostracized, or Zuli Hawass will yell at you, or something like that. So there you go.
Isn't that fascinating? Even though they've never seen or found a sarcophagus or even a estuary burial box, they haven't found those things in there, have they?
The Great Pyramid does have a box in it, and people say that it had a lid that is missing. It's been missing since distant antiquity. But in terms of a burial, furniture, and also a mummy, no, none have been found. But the answer to that is the reason why there's no evidence for a burial is because in ancient times, all that stuff was stolen before us Egyptologists could steal it.
Yeah, there you go. Interesting. Okay.
Egyptology, not to harp on them, but Egyptology, its genesis was from tomb robbers. Some of the early Egyptologists were circus performers, and that would take artifacts from ancient Egypt and sell them to museums. And there's a book about that called The Rape of the Nile. And it's a wonderful book. There are efforts for museums in Egypt to recover those artifacts that were in effect stolen. So that's the mindset of Egyptology. So if you're a hammer, everything is a nail.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're a tomb robber, everything's a tomb.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, the Great Pyramid, if it was a tomb, was extremely ineffective.
Before we go any farther with that, we have to take our break again at the bottom of the hour here, buddy. And then we're going to come right back and get more back into it there. How about that? Okay, so hang on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back with more Spaced Out Sunday after this.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resnick, founder of the Child and Child Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Sunday. I am your host, Michael W. Hall. Thanks for being with us. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, UPRN 107.7 in New Orleans, and on the digital side, we are also on Revolution Radio. Don't forget, you can always check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot and shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store and catching up on SOR Newswire and so much more. And we are back for our final hour with Stephen Myers, and we're talking about the Giza pyramid construction and all of that. So I'm excited to get into the details here now of some of the construction processes that have gone on the Giza Plateau. Stephen, before I do that, is there anything that I have missed so far in your chronology of explanation that you like to go by? I'm sure there's probably a flow. Have I missed anything so far?
No, you've done a tremendous job of bringing out my ideas, if you will, about how the Great Pyramid was built. And hopefully people can view the video series or watch my first documentary or read my first book, and that discusses the process of how that ancient wonder was assembled. So thank you very much. You're doing a great job.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, this is fun stuff for me. Like I said, I'm a gadget kind of guy, and obviously this is the macro level of gadgets. My goodness, the Giza Pyramid is just a massive undertaking by anyone's stretch of imagination. Let's see if we can explain now the workings of how the actual Giza pyramid construction went. We've already got now the raw materials from the quarries to the Nile River, and then by barge, potentially even 450 miles down the river to the Giza Plateau area. And now we've gotten the materials off the barges on the river and up a lock system to the Giza Plateau. By the way, how far above the Nile, as far as elevation, is the Giza Plateau?
That varies. The height of the Nile through the eons has changed, so it's hard to say. Now it's, 100 feet or so above the Nile, if you will. So
okay,
the topography has changed quite a bit. There's the ancient Lake Maurice that Herodotus talked about. It's still there, and it was much larger and higher in elevation, if you will, in ancient times than it is now. So it's kind of brackish a little bit. But even that area had some ancient water pumps in terms of water wheels. So the Egypt has always had water pumps, if you will. So it's changed quite a bit. So it's about 100 foot elevation, give or take.
Okay.
The base of the pyramid.
All right. And of course the pyramid itself is how many feet tall?
It's about 450, depending on, if you measure it from the base or there's paving stones. Some of it's gone now, but it's about 45 stories. It's a big building.
Wow. Okay. So let's say now let's explain to the folks, once they've gotten these stones to the construction site, tell us again how they built these little ponds or water holding tanks around the pyramid. How did the construction work? Did they, for instance, have to build a giant square around the entire base of the pyramid and start filling that up with water?
During the preliminary construction, they did use an enclosure pond around the Great Pyramid, and that wall existed up to the 18th century, but they used the casing stones themselves as a wall. Very efficient. So there wasn't any 45-story 4 dams around the Great Pyramid. It was just the casing stones itself that are cemented together watertight. And the pond was the entire level of the Great Pyramid, if you will, from corner to corner. And they used that pond to move stones on barges to their final location. So it worked very efficiently.
Oh, okay. So now I'm starting to get this idea that in reality, they're using the pyramid itself as a vessel, basically, to fill with water.
Yes.
At least 4 feet at a time as they go up. And then, of course, the pond, the water system, would get smaller and smaller as they get towards the top of this thing, right?
Yes. Yeah, they used, at the very last few levels, the stones certainly got a little bit smaller in size. There's some ancient reports of people pushing stones off at the very top, so to watch them fall down in distant antiquity. So, yeah, they were much smaller at the very end. It might have done some handwork, if you will. But again, the video series describes the whole process from beginning to end, and the specialized barges and techniques to move these stones. So if you ever meet a guy that runs a forklift, okay, they can make those things do anything. And the same with barges. It's not just like wooden floats. They had some that were quite specialized to do some very specialized purposes. And the stones that were at an angle, like in the Grand Gallery, they just set those stones on stones that were on the level below it. So, in fact, it almost cradled the stone. So it was, they were able to manipulate those stones and move them with ease and complete every construction procedure to complete the Great Pyramid.
Okay. All right. So we're getting close to the details here now. So, for instance, if they're building this structure to be kind of like a vessel itself, and the casing stones are kind of holding the water in as they go up. Let's say they're up 3/4 of the way at this point, and they're still building the levels, from 3/4 on up. How do they get the stones, the stones that have been hewn from the base of the pyramid up to the pond that's at like 3/4 or whatever? How do they get the stones into the pond to place them?
They just complete the systematic process. They have a flight of locks, if you will, probably on the north side of the Great Pyramid that went up level by level, one after another, and they connected, one to the next higher one to the next higher one, and over until it goes up pretty high all the way to the level that they are working on. And the top water lock is at the same level as that pond. And so stones would go all the way from the base of the Great Pyramid all the way up that series of water locks and into that pond. So it was a systematic process that was quite fast and operated 24 hours a day. So the big ramp, they say they only used it about 10 hours a day in the light of day, but water lock systems have always operated 24 hours a day.
Well, it would seem, that's fascinating. It would seem to me that, the old theory of a great ramp, pulling the stones up there, would be one thing to build that. But to build a waterlock system up to the same level of the pyramid that you needed to construct, wouldn't that be even more massive construction than a ramp?
It's speculated that the ramp was a bigger construction project than the Great Pyramid, bigger in volume.
Yeah, exactly.
So the water locks were incorporated into the casing stones. So they were built right into the casing stones. So they were integrated into the casing stones. So there's no big structure or big anything. It's just little ponds, water locks, that one after another. And
but the water locks would have to be on the exterior of the pyramid, right? At least exterior of the casing stones.
Yes, they are on the exterior during construction and incorporated into the wall of casing stones. So they just, they weren't hanging on the side, if you will. They were built on the layer of casing stones below each water lock. So because they're big and heavy and strong, and we're able to move stones on barges. So it was a very small footprint, if you will. It wasn't a big, like a big structure, the water locks themselves, but just and you'll see on my even my Facebook timeline or at our website at thepump.org pictures of these water locks and how they were incorporated into the casing stones. So it's a fascinating process. Well, there's a lot to cover, and it's certainly different than other ideas. But if you allow yourself the opportunity to find out what it's all about, many people say that the idea is compelling. So I hope people actually look into this and find out what it's about before they make a judgment.
Okay, so let's see if we can explain this. I'm an old radio guy, Really, I have a degree in radio and television from Washington State University. So I always remember when I was in the audience trying to understand what people were trying to explain. Now you're saying that these water locks are incorporated into the casing stones. Can you explain how that is verbally at all for people who are trying to visualize this? And you're saying that it's not just on the interior of the vessel of the pyramid, but somehow there is a water lock on the outside of the casing stone, or how does that work?
Well, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's easier to show both the pictures and animations from my website and books. But simply imagine the water lock is built on top of the casing stones below it. These casing stones are big. They're about, the top is, some of them are 5 to 7 feet deep. They're 16 tons. And they can hold a casing stone, a barge and casing stone and water lock. So it's just built right on top, kind of recessed in to the wall of casing stones.
Okay, so we got
the next one is recessed in too, so it kind of zigzags or goes up the wall of casing stones, and then ultimately we think that it zigzagged probably a couple times and got to the top.
Okay, so in other words, if someone was going to look at a pyramid and the sloping wall of the pyramid, they would see some other stone boxes on the outside of the pyramid, it sounds like, that were then used as the locks.
Watching the construction process, you could see those boxes sitting on different layers of the Great Pyramid. They're all connected to each other as a sequence or flight.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of visualization. But we have the advantage nowadays that you didn't have when you were in radio in college, is that you can refer people to either a website or a video, and it's just a click away and they can see, full computer-generated animations and cutaway views of all of this stuff we're talking about. So it's quite visual, to say the least. And I hear where you're coming from. So that's the advantage of nowadays over back in the day.
Okay, so I can see a pyramid. By the way, the pyramid supposedly had some kind of a outer covering at one point when it was finished, I guess, that most of that has kind of fallen away or something.
Yeah, those are the casing stones that I've been talking about. And there's just a few that remain. The few that remain are bonded together watertight with an extremely strong bonding agent known for being stronger than the stone itself. So, but most of that is gone. It was exceptional quality limestone that has been removed for other purposes, repurposed to rebuild Cairo after an earthquake around 1000 AD.
Wow. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Pyramid as a quarry.
Okay. And of course, then when those limestone outer stones were on there, were they there when they were building these locks and incorporating it into the side of the pyramid, or did they do that final version coverage of the pyramid after they finally did the whole thing?
Yeah, I think that it was built level by level, including the casing stones. So they would build both the water lock for the next layer and the next layer of casing stones, layer by layer, and then after the casing stones for that layer was set in place, then they would be able to put the stones, the interior stones, right down into that pond. So we call that the construction pond because that's where everything was happening, layer by layer. So Egyptologists say, they built the Great Pyramid and then somehow put these casing stones over the interior stones. But how that was done is never demonstrated. Sir Flanders Petrie thought that the construction process, the sequence of stone placement, was the casing stones for a layer and then the interior stones. So that sequence that he described is the same that's in our research. So that's quite interesting that he contended that it was built layer by layer.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. That's corroboration right there that your theory seems to stand. Now, again, once they get to a certain level and they're laying the casing stones first, how did they get the pond, the construction pond part, to adhere to the casing, the outer surface of the pyramid, the casing stones, to be filled with water, and then make sure it was watertight, of course. And then when they didn't need it and they went to the next level, they just, got rid of those, that portion of the construction pond? They just chipped it away?
No, they used the casing stones to impound the construction pond. And then when they put the casing stones to the next higher level, they added water using that subterranean water pump. That water pump supplied the tremendous volume of water to keep that pond full and the water locks operation. So they always had a supply of water, even to the great height that the Great Pyramid was during construction. So they had a water supply and a strong bonding agent and the ability to cut stones to extreme precision. And geniuses in distant antiquity were able to construct this huge construction project.
Okay, and do we know how they were able to get this pump so powerful to pump that much water and to keep it, at a certain level, of course? But what was the power plant behind this pump?
We think that it worked very similar, but quite a bit different than a good example would be a hydraulic ram water pump, but it was much different than that. That type of pump uses the kinetic energy of moving water down a pipe by gravity to ultimately compress some air in a chamber with automatic valves, and that compressed air pushes some water up. That's a hydraulic ram water pump. But the Great Pyramid, those subterranean chambers, don't have a drain. And those ram pumps waste about 80% of the water that goes through the system and only pump about 20% or less. That's why you never see them. Oh, people say they're great and efficient, but they are very inefficient in terms of their use of the precious water resource. So we think it was different than a hydraulic ram water pump. We think that they used in the subterranean chamber the property of implosion that Victor Schauberger, you probably heard of him. He was an Austrian naturalist in the 1930s and is attributed to have built the engines for the Foo Fighters that existed in the European front in the latter part of World War II. So they used this property of implosion, and it was much more efficient. And that and gravity is what powered that water pump and supplied the water for the water locks and the construction pond.
Okay. Believe it or not, that was the fastest half hour I ever went, because now we got to take another break. Oh my goodness, this is the last commercial break that we'll take here, Stephen. So thank you so much for hanging in there with me, and we'll just kind of wrap up on the other side of the bottom of the hour here. But this is great stuff. I appreciate you being here with us again, and we are going to be right back with more Spaced Out Sunday after this commercial message.
That mental fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajans.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
And we are back with the final segment of Spaced Out Sunday with Stephen Myers. We're dealing with the Giza Pyramid and the construction of the Giza Pyramid. And, I just got to thinking, Stephen, during the break. I'm visualizing, and I've seen some of the stills of your animations. I haven't seen the video yet, which I'm going to go watch. But I got to thinking about the final step in the construction. How do they get the top put on the pyramid?
Yes, they excuse me. They built the last few levels got so small that the pond became small. So we think that they built a probably wooden, just a square structure, like a water tank, like steam trains had a water tank, and just that kept the pond from getting smaller and smaller at the very end during construction. And then again, they were able to use barges and the buoyancy of water, and ultimately built to level by level again, all the way up the last maybe even 6 or 7 or 8 levels of the Great Pyramid, and again put the capstone in place using a specialized technique with probably supports and 2 small barges, so you had the capstone between them, and then they would move that right over where it went, if you will, and then allowed water to enter those barges, and then the capstone would settle down perfectly right on to where it was supposed to go. So it was just a systematic process, one step after another on a production line speed to build their construction project, the Great Pyramid. Huge cost, but we think it provided an even greater return on investment.
And let's talk about that return on investment. What is your opinion of their payoff here?
Well, we know it was a big project, and certainly too big for Egyptologists to do by any means. So we think the Great Pyramid wasn't some sort of a structure for a death cult, but that it was a machine that actually did something, that the Great Pyramid was infrastructure for the civilization that built it, that the Great Pyramid wasn't built to tell us they knew pi or to point to something, but the Great Pyramid provided prosperity by turning the desert into a garden, and by turning toil into leisure, and also by turning poverty into prosperity. And that's why my second book is called The Great Pyramid Prosperity Machine. Because that's what the Great Pyramid did, is provide prosperity. And it did it by being a water pump. And that's why they built the largest structure in North America. One of the reasons is because it irrigates perpetually a million and a half acres in central Washington, up near Davenport. And the largest water pump in the world is in the Valley of the Nile. It's the Mubarak pumping station. So people say, well, they don't need a water pump because they got all water in the Nile. Well, yeah, the water's in the Nile, but they need to pump the water out. In modern times, that's why they spent $500 million building the Mubarak pumping station.
Okay.
And in ancient times, people have the same wants, needs, and desires. They want to, have a little bit of leisure, have their kids eat every day, and that type of thing. So that's what the Great Pyramid did in ancient times, and that's what our infrastructure does, even in the Valley of the Nile, in modern times.
Right. So in other words, when all of the exterior ponds or everything was taken away and the pyramid is there doing its thing, it was receiving water from the Nile and then pumping it back out into the irrigation fields or aqueducts or whatever. Is that kind of how the system worked?
Sort of. They did have water at the base of the Great Pyramid. The original builders provided that water through either a canal from Lake Maurice or other methods. But water entered the upper end of the descending passage, which other researchers agree with that, including Christopher Dunn. Water entered that and it went down to the subterranean chamber, and that all acted like a water pump, which pumped water up to the Grand Gallery, the base of the Grand Gallery. And we think that they used electrolysis in that chamber to separate the hydrogen and oxygen from the water.
Oh, really?
When ignited, those two gases are quite volatile, and ultimately they ignited it for the purpose of creating a powerful vacuum, and that continued to lift water up to the Grand Gallery. And through internal mechanisms that operated automatically, they were able to break that vacuum and cause that huge water piston, if you will, to move back down and into the Queen's chamber, which compressed the upper portion of that chamber is filled with air, and it compressed that air to a high degree, and that compressed air ultimately pushed water into the King's chamber and then out the King's chamber vents. So that's the kind of the process in a very abbreviated manner. But basically what that did was cause the water to have a pretty high head. The upper ends of the King's chamber vents are pretty high. We think that there were passages from those upper ends that went down through the casing stones and to the base of the Great Pyramid, and ultimately the water went through pipes, if you will, to the point of use. They used it for pumping water for irrigation, of course, but also to power heavy machinery, probably to create static electricity, compressed air, and a whole host of other things. I think the Giza Plateau was originally an industrial site, science center, and a graveyard, if you will. And so there's a whole host of purposes. I discuss that in my books and everything, the purposes for the pumped water, but ultimately it was to improve the lives of those people who built the Great Pyramid water pump.
Is there artwork on the interior of the Great Pyramid?
I'm going to ask you a question. Is there artwork on the interior of the engine in your car?
I don't know.
I know. There isn't any. The reason why there isn't any in your engine or in the Great Pyramid is because it's a machine. You don't need artwork.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, is that if there was artwork in there, I was wondering how that corresponded with the idea of it being a machine like that. But you're saying there's no
There's no formal writing inside the Great Pyramid at all.
Okay.
So, but if you go to temples and obelisks and places that are obviously built for religious reasons, they're absolutely covered with writings, pictographs, hieroglyphics, statuary, and that type of thing. But the Great Pyramid appears to be like starkly without ornamentation. It's ultra modern, but built in distant antiquity because it's a machine. Just like, again, the Grand Coulee Dam doesn't have any artwork in the passages and chambers inside. There's certainly some writing, that indicate what tunnel you're in and that type of thing. But there's no formal writing to tell you anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a machine. It's not a tomb.
How did the original robbers of these antiquity, those kind of things? Because I know there is some old graffiti, I guess, inside there somewhere. How did the people penetrate the Great Pyramid to get inside of it initially? The robbers that weren't supposed to be doing that, but how did they get inside?
Well, they broke the casing stones, if you will. By that time they had iron, but they also they boiled vinegar and threw it on the rock, which cracked the rock, and ultimately entered the Great Pyramid, despoilers, tomb robbers, if you will, and that type of thing. Vandals, and
so they were able to penetrate the ton, whatever thick casing stone that was at the base of the pyramid. It sounds like, huh?
Yes, they were, and they there's stories that they've found armor and metal at Bant and all of this other stuff, but in terms of physical evidence, nothing remains of that. But you ask an Egyptologist, how do long open passages and also doors on pivots and sliding stones, how does that protect a pharaoh's mummy and his treasure? And there's no coherent answer. So the Great Pyramid's design doesn't fit the function of being a tomb, but it does. A lot of researchers think the Great Pyramid was some sort of a machine and had a technical purpose, and that's the direction that I'm going.
Yeah. Oh, this is fascinating stuff. This must really be rewarding for you to come up with a unique theory that, as far as I know, well, you weren't the first. You kind of came across this pamphlet, of course, but you've taken it to a higher level, obviously, than what the original author did. So, how does it feel for you now that you're a living legend in the field yourself?
Well, I'm a humble researcher and following a direction of research and standing on the shoulders of certainly a giant, Edward Kunkel, who did the best he could with the resources he had. He died broke, if you will, and even now, after 50 years or longer, many people haven't even heard of his work. But it's been fun. It's been really, I've met a lot of interesting people, yourself included. And I've been to Egypt, of course, traveled there. And it's started this nonprofit foundation that have a facility that we're doing experimentation. We have a research library, board of directors, pro bono legal counsel. So it's been a neat networking with people all over the world, and we have a fundraising campaign for a 3D printer. So if anyone wants to donate it, we can put a link from our website in appreciation for that 3D printer for some of our experimentation, and also a plasma cutter for some construction of redesigning and redeveloping this ancient technology. We have a volunteer who is a welder, and that's much more valuable than an Egyptologist ever would be. So we're excited about that. So if anyone is interested in donating a plasma cutter or a 3D printer, they can contact us through our website. So, but it's been an interesting passion. It started out as a hobby, then it became a passion, but now it's a life quest. And we think that we can redevelop this alternative water pumping system to help alleviate some of the environmental impact from hydroelectric dams or fossil fuels. So it's an alternative. We're a humanitarian organization. 9/11 was really bad. Lots of people died, but every day, twice as many people die from malnutrition or unable to afford pumping water onto their farmland. So we want to reduce that number of deaths that occur every day, and that's kind of our life quest by redeveloping this ancient technology. And I kind of have an affinity towards Nikola Tesla. That's what he did.
Yes.
He developed this alternating current, which was an alternative to using horse-powered water pumps or steam engines and that type of thing. So we're trying to develop this ancient technology, and if people want to get involved, contact us, see what we're about, read our mission statement on our website, or pray for us. We accept materials or computer stuff, tooling for our facility, or whatever. So just spread the word. Put a link on your website or share on social media. Our website, anything would help. So
and that would be the pump.org would be the good place to go to find everything, pretty much, right?
Yes, you can. From there, you can have a link to my email, to the books and other materials, and my YouTube channel, Facebook page, that type of stuff. So, be a friend on Facebook or anything. So, talk it up in news groups, and and we appreciate everything.
And by the way, are you working on a new publication, new book, or are you thinking of doing something further with something totally different? Or are you still staying on the subject right now and want to develop the pyramid?
Well, we have a lot of irons in the fire. I've certainly written a number of magazine articles. Right now, I'm adding some content to our YouTube channel, free for everyone to look at, not just about the Great Pyramid, but some issues with other aspects of study of the Great Pyramid, including research techniques, some issues with the Egyptology, and some just that type of thing. We're branching out. We were also going to go on a tour to Egypt, but because of travel restrictions, our tour was canceled. I was going to lead a tour with Barbara Jean Lindsay at barbarajeanlindsay.com, and we were both going to co-lead this tour in February, but the coronavirus stopped that. So if anyone out there is doing tours and need a tour leader, then they can contact me through my website. So we're doing a lot of different things. Also, again, the main priority is to redevelop this ancient technology for our modern but very troubled world. And it's efficient, it is environmentally friendly, alternative to fossil fuels, help even with the issue of global warming and that type of thing. So it's been fun. It's been a 20-year odyssey that is still going on.
Well, what a noble endeavor, for sure. Definitely. I mean, this is, I love it when a person like yourself individually comes up with an idea that indeed could improve humanity, throughout the world. I mean, that's what Tesla was all about. That's what, major inventors are all about. By the way, to get to your YouTube site directly, do you have to go through thepump.org, or how do we find your YouTube page?
I think it's YouTube. Stephen Myers Author is the link.
Okay.
Let me check.
So look up your name on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Stephen Myerses out there, but yeah, just look it up. I'm trying to get the actual web address. Yeah, it's YouTube user Great Pyramid Pump Videos.
Oh, there you go. Okay, that'd be easier to find you there. Great Pyramid Pump videos. Oh, nice. Okay, wonderful. And of course,
video trailers for my books and documentaries, and some personal stuff. I have a metal lathe and some things I did with that. And, a little bit about some vacations and that type of thing. We went on Route 66, but mainly pyramid stuff and related. So there's some content in there that I think people would enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, you're always a joy to have on Spaced Out Sunday, Stephen. Thank you very much for coming on and explaining this interesting theory that you have about the Giza pyramid and this colossal structure that is the most conundrum. This is the biggest conundrum I can see on the planet. Isn't this also the only surviving wonder of the world? With the 7 or 8 wonders of the world, isn't this the only one that we can actually still see and go to?
Right. It's the only surviving of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. So it is a mystery cloaked in controversy, to say the least, and it's shrouded with a lot of poor research techniques. And so we have to peel that all away to get to the ultimate truth and to understand what the original builders were doing and why. So, and we think it was a benefit for them, and that it can be a benefit for us. This unusual water pumping technology.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, that's wonderful, and we will, of course, be. What you can do as well is you can. Link to the Facebook page of Michael W. Hall to link our actual video process that we went through tonight on your page so people can watch us do our thing. But it's been a pleasure for me. I'm going to have to cut here to the final extra here, but you have yourself a wonderful week coming up and a wonderful holiday season if I don't talk to you after this.
Well, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to spread the word, if you will, and I appreciate the work that you're doing, and thanks again for having me on your show a second time.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. All right. Thank you very much, folks, for hanging in with us. It's Spaced Out Sunday. This has been Michael W. Hall, and we will be right back after our final commercial break.
People came from miles around and threw trash down to see how deep the hole was and listen for its end. And then one day that faithful lady forced me off of the land. They came on and sent me on down under with the plan. They kept me holding up and that so never could be found. So no one ever knows what's deep down in the earth's ground.
Well, I want to remind everyone that Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. rocking us in and out of every single show. You can find more information and music at bumblefoot.com. A special thanks to everyone listening in at home and in your cars, at work and in the chat rooms, and wherever you are around the world. Remember, the show is currently copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for sharing with your evening with us tonight, folks. Because together, my friends, we own the night. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next Sunday.